is facing a state of economic and environmental crisis. Whilst more than 1 in 5 of us live in poverty, increasing every day as the cost of living intensifies, the world burns faster. In this state of turmoil, many are turning to eco-communities, places that offer an answer to the country's ongoing problems, where food is self-produced, energy is renewable, and environmental living is promoted.
I think there is a chronic resource crisis, and that's coupled with a socio-economic dysfunctionality. And as a result of that, I think this lifestyle is going to just naturally become more and more attractive to people, and that is happening.
Tao created Llamas, an eco-community in Wales that aimed to bring modern life to off-grid living.
The concept was to create a route whereby people could transition from mainstream lifestyles to an off-grid land-based lifestyles and have it legitimised by the planning system.
Through a series of petitions and applications, starting from 2006, Tao instigated what is now called the One Planet Development Scheme. It allows people to build new homes in the Welsh countryside in accordance to a set of strict guidelines that ensure sustainability. Since the scheme, there's been an increase of eco-communities in Wales, which have faced criticism for gentrifying and developing what was already carbon-neutral land. However, residents argue that a large part of their living revolves around permaculture and rewilding, which is restoring degraded Welsh countryside.
When we purchased this land, it was very degraded sheep pasture. In the 13 or so years that we've been here, we've brought about a massive transition. Kind of what we're doing is rewilding, except we're kind of positioning human beings as part of what is in essence a nature reserve. And in doing that, we're also supporting ourselves, creating livelihoods for ourselves. So yeah, I think there is plenty of space in the UK for people to undertake this lifestyle if they want. And in a way, that's kind of the other caveat, in that I don't think it's necessarily everyone's cup of tea.
This theory is supported in part by Professor Jenny Pickerill, who has studied eco-communities for over 20 years.
One obstacle that's stopping people live in eco-communities, it is the hard physical work. So it's around the changes that individuals have to make, either manually having to chop wood to heat their houses or collect water, or to live off the land.
Meaning if we wish to survive, we must radically change our mindset and way of living.
I think micro solutions are the way forward. I don't think there are going to be big macro solutions. I don't think that cities are the way forward, because by their very definition, they remove relationship with the land base, and that creates problems.
As a society, we know our way of life is not sustainable, yet many of us are reluctant to make the necessary changes. However, blaming the individual fails to acknowledge issues such as accessibility, land ownership, and income.
Eco-communities have historically been quite exclusive in terms of access if you don't have a large sum of money. But more recently, there have been some really innovative developments.
Pickerill is referring to eco-communities that offer low-income housing and rental options, which are making them more financially accessible. This is further enhanced by the development of sustainable technologies and materials, which are making eco-developments far cheaper. Unfortunately, there is still the problem of land distribution.
If we were to start with tackling land ownership and think about who owned the power and the resources and the land, then that would enable us to make better decisions about living more sustainably.
With over 82% of the UK being privately owned, and having only 13% of it being woodland, which is the primary fuel source for most eco-communities, land seems to be a primary issue.
Every bit of land is owned. So unless you can get yourself into some kind of cooperative or of some sort or other, it's almost impossible.
That was Rick, one of the long-term residents of Teepee Valley. Teepee Valley started off 47 years ago as a settlement for free partiers and hippies who wished to reconnect with the earth. It now consists of 200 acres and allows anyone to join.
That's what this valley offers to poor people. It offers the ability to actually, if they want to come and try this land to live in a teepee or a yurt or something like that, if they actually want to give that a go, they can give it a go, and it's not going to cost them any rent at all. Otherwise, the whole idea of the project of going out and making a community on the land is a wonderful idea, but for most people it's just an unaffordable and unattainable wish.
Teepee Valley is owned by a trust rather than a set individual, which makes it easier to accept newcomers, whilst also reducing the amount of conflict that is sometimes found within eco-communities.
Many communities are started by, say, somebody buys this bit of land and wants to start a community on it. Before very long, in that sort of community, where the land is owned by a small part of the community, the other part of the community start falling out with it. And I've seen it happen in so many communities. And so who owns the land is very important for a community.
Even with the existence of radical eco-communities like Teepee Valley, land mass still poses a problem. If the UK was divided up equally, then there would only be 1 acre per person, which is not enough to sustain our way of living.
1 acre is not enough for you to grow your own wheat and all your own vegetables and all your own potatoes and anything that's going to give you milk.
Eco-communities also raise the issue of healthcare, education and innovation. If we all were becoming self-sufficient, then who would have the time and resources to provide all these services?
And we live in a society where it is really necessary to specialise, and so we are interdependent. So the idea all of us individually becoming sustainable isn't practical, because we depend on each other too much. Like if I get ill, I shall need doctors and nurses, and you can't be digging a garden at the same time as caring for me.
All these issues raises the question, what is the purpose of eco-communities?
Small sustainable communities is a contribution, a sensible contribution, but it isn't the answer to a large-scale society.
They're very much about trying some things out, experimenting in different ways of living and surviving that will work for some people and from which we can take some lessons more broadly.
What can be confirmed is that eco-communities do provide a way of living that promotes connectivity, sustainability and health.
What this lifestyle can offer is a sense of kind of well-being and health and freedom in a way that isn't necessarily there in the mainstream.
Unfortunately, the scale that eco-communities work at, the land they require, and the lack of accessibility prevents them from being a one-size-fits-all solution, meaning we need to focus more on helping the masses rather than the few.
In cities, we need to tackle empty housing and the ownership of the land and the resources within the urban areas.
Something that's really got to happen is a sustainability over the cities. But the similarity of what could be done is to grow your own food a lot more and make whatever possible effort you can to live a carbon neutral life. But I'm very, very sorry that we're not much more versatile in our society to enable it to happen much more.
Ultimately, it seems that eco-communities are not an accessible option for the UK to live sustainably due to government restrictions, land ownership and funding. But they do provide a blueprint that shows how, as a society, we can make changes in our own lives to help contribute tackling climate change, whilst living a healthy lifestyle.